Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
And welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast where we break down and celebrate the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. Our inaugural season, we are breaking down Young Frankenstein. I'm Alan Sanders, one of your hosts.
And I'm Walt Murray, your other host.
And we are so pleased to welcome back to our podcast and to our little hovel here in Transylvania. We're able to get Jonathan Howell from Minute Impossible to come on back and comment on the movie. Welcome back, Jonathan.
Jawohl, yes, so happy to be here. Thank you.
So why did you realize in this movie their accents are everywhere, all over the place, except the Transylvanian, that's that Eastern European. We don't have anyone with that accent.
None. In fact, there's a gag later that has to do with that directly.
I mean, everyone's either got an English accent or a German accent.
I don't think anyone can do a Transylvanian accent. To me, a Transylvanian accent is Dracula.
Well, yeah.
So,
I was going to say Bela Lugosi.
But that's not German. Oh, okay.
But it's Romanian. It's like, welcome to Transylvania. Welcome to our town.
Yeah, it's like blah, 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 blah.
Would you like, we're not quite Russian, almost.
Almost, or Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
We do a lot of Russian accents on ours. Because they're in Prague most of the time.
Two dumb is on screen. Let's continue on. Where the hell are we in this anyway?
Minute 18.
We're in minute 18.
We haven't even started.
There we go. That's where we go. Let's start there. All right. Well, we are at minute 18, and we're going to continue with the gag that we just talked about yesterday, the Walk This Way gag, where we'll actually get to see the physical comedy play out from the command of Igor to Frankenstein about walking this way. And we end the scene with the wagon pulling off toward, eventually, will be the castle of the Frankenstein family. So let's continue this joke that we talked about yesterday. Aerosmith, we talked enough, I think, yesterday about the fact that this joke, in and of itself, inspired them for a whole song. What I think is interesting, though, in the filming of this, and they don't overplay it, it's very subtle, it's walk this way, and then he goes and gives him the stick, like, yeah, use the stick. So Gene Wilder feels compelled, okay, I'm going to use your half-hunched over walking cane. And then, Jonathan, I think you said it as we were getting ready for this minute best. It's like every now and then, Gene Wilder's character realizes there's an audience out there that I have to play to because I just realized how stupid this looks.
Well, that's going to get you a bigger reaction than when I used to do any sort of plays or bits like that on stage, and I reacted to something as if I know that it's stupid, and I'd look at the audience, I'd get a bigger laugh than if I had just played it for the gag.
It's almost like you let the audience know you realize what's just happened.
Yeah, in writing, I think it's called hanging a lantern on it. I don't know if that's for that or if that's when you want someone to explain, like, let's say, like, for instance, I watched the show Stargate. And on the show Stargate, they're always in the woods because they shot in British Columbia. So one time, one person in the cast says, hey, why are we always in the woods? And someone else says, well, because these planets are suitable to humans. They're hanging a lantern on the error in the show. They're saying, yes, we all know it looks like this. Yes, you can comment on it. It's to keep people from saying, what's wrong with him? Why didn't they change this up? I think that's happening here. He's hanging a lantern on the fact, this is stupid. I know it's stupid. You know it's stupid. And it's funnier in that we all know it's stupid and that Igor made me do this. And so it elevates the joke.
And we've all done that eye roll when we realize that doesn't have to be a situation where we're trying to walk down a small set of stairs with a too short a cane. It's just anything in our lives where we realize, oh my God, it's just the eye roll. You just want to say, can I get a do-over?
Yep, I just got hung. And Igor stuck it to him good.
Igor sticks it to him all the time.
Constantly.
We used to do this to someone in design. We would have someone that was new come up and we'd be like, hey, you better go get the paper stretcher. And they'd be like, the paper stretcher? And you're like, yeah, this thing isn't going to fit. So you got to go get the stretcher that'll make the paper bigger. And they would walk around the shop looking for it for easily 2 minutes before we were like, all right, there's no such thing as a paper stretcher. Doing the joke of warm red, putting them over a vat of red paint we'd have in the shop and be like, that's warm red. If you put your hand over it, you can feel it. And they do that. And then you stick their hand down into it. So it's just Igor being a jerk, pretty much.
I think every profession must have that joke. When I was in the Navy, we would always do this to new guys. We'd be like, hey, look, Captain needs 50 feet of shoreline. I need you to go down and get some. Well, how do you go get 50 feet of shoreline? They're thinking like that's got to be some kind of rope. And obviously, shoreline you're not exactly going to be able to bring back to the captain. But there's always that. And then snipe hunts, same thing. You got to go snipe
hunt. This is a southern thing. I had to introduce my wife to this. She's from Texas, and I'm from Tennessee, and she didn't know what a snipe hunt was, so I had to take her on a snipe hunt.
Oh, lucky guy.
I'm sure you really appreciate it.
Let's tell a snipe hunt story. For those that don't know, a snipe is a fictional creature that does not exist, and you go on a snipe hunt. When I was a kid, we did it with paper bags and spoons, and you had to bang the outside of the paper bag and go, snipe, 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 snipe. You were out in the woods, and you're looking for snipes, and everyone else is just making fun of you the whole time. You don't know this. And you're out, and they send you out in the woods with a flashlight, and then you have to turn off the flashlight because snipes don't like light.
I was going to say, you were nice to provide a flashlight. We never did.
What would happen, though, is we would take the flashlight from them. We'd be like, oh, there's one over there. You should walk over. We'd take theirs and, like, hold it like we're helping them, like, point the way. And then when they got far enough out, we turn them all off, and everyone would go silent and get behind a tree and just stand there. And they'd be stuck out in the woods with nothing. And it was...
And there's nothing more unsettling than being 8 years old and having everything go quiet in the dark woods at night. Guys?
8. She was like 22 years old when I did this to her. I've still never taken my children. My children are city kids now. We live in Chicago. My kids are city kids, and they have never gone snipe hunting. So at some point, I'm going to have to take them.
Well, see, this is where the regional colloquialisms coming out in these podcasts, because, you know, we can get down home here if we want. We go cow tipping when we're bored.
Yeah.
No, we don't, for real. Get your RC Cola, your moon pie, and go out cow tipping before the tornado hits the trailer park.
Yeah, it's like family reunion time for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, Walt, you've made that comment a few times. You're like, yeah, I speak redneck.
Fluently.
I dress like a redneck. I just don't speak it.
Well, let's continue on then with minute 18 here. We've got this visual gag, and as we said, Gene Wilder's character does a beautiful oh my God, I can't believe I fell for that joke. The ironic part about this whole scene, because it is such a memorable scene, and everyone quotes it. You know, again, I told you, Susan Delmonico, who was our guest last week, who's a personal trainer, told her story as a kid, and everyone told this story. But Mel Brooks did not think this was going to be funny.
Which is crazy.
He wanted to cut this completely out. He's like, we'll film it. He basically humored Gene. We'll film it. And as they were going through, he's like, yeah, let's cut this. This really isn't funny.
I'm amazed that Mel Brooks had this reaction to this. It is quintessential him, and it's one of the strongest jokes in the movie.
Yeah, and it's...
next to put the candle back, which is my favorite joke for this movie.
Yeah.
But this one is, I mean, it's dumb. It's a dumb joke, and you see it coming a mile away, but it's hilarious the way they sell it.
And it has become probably the most pervasive joke out of this movie that has made its way into our culture, because people, whether they know where it came from or not, this has been a very widely recognized and understood gag.
Yeah, it's the Chattanooga Choo-Choo of gags.
Yes, it is. It is the
It's 70 years old, and
Choo-Choo
still people know it.
And it doesn't get old because it's reused. In fact, Mel Brooks didn't like it, but obviously this was such a big hit afterwards that even he reused this gag in History of the World Part 1, and then later reused it in Men in Tights. And other people have reused this gag. So we all know this gag now. It's become a trope that is just walk this way. And we all shuffle along, or we creep along, or we just do whatever the person in front of us is doing.
And like we said, great dad joke.
Oh, yeah, the kids love it when we do that, especially through their slumber parties.
Absolutely. Always do it in public.
Let's continue on here. Once he realizes, oh, dear Lord, I've been played, he sits up, walks normal, and we get another big crash of lightning and thunder. Igor reacts to it, or Igor. And in case we didn't know, we are at the Transylvania Station when this happens.
Right, which is written in English.
Right.
Which is funny because right next to it is written Stadt, which is German for city. So it's got city in German, but Transylvania Station, because you can't make the joke without Transylvania Station.
Right. Again, another one of those things where we're blending the language and we're not even coming close to anything Romanian anywhere in this entire part of the story.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Romanians hate this movie.
Well, as they make their way through, the next thing we're going to see here is Igor taking, and again, we're to 1974. We have to remember, it's still a
It's
current
set
movie.
in 1974.
But we've got a hay cart that looks like it's right out of the late 1800s, early 1900s, rural Romania. I guess this is the Cadillac, of transportation for somebody as honored as the next Frankenstein.
Well,
Alan, I'm gonna have to stop you with my moment of pedantry. I looked this up. A cart has 2 wheels. A wagon has 4 wheels. This is a hay wagon.
A hay wagon. Well, there you go.
This ends my moment of pedantry.
Brought to you by Minute Impossible, where they do things right.
We talk about stuff in way too much detail.
Yes. As opposed to us, where we wing it day in and day out.
absolutely no research done here, folks.
I mean, this is a pretty big hay wagon, though. I mean, it's a decent size.
Well,
That's huge.
in their defense, this joke would not have played as well in a 1974 Vega. So,
It might have.
maybe an
Maybe
Eldorado
something
or
with a
something.
rumble seat in the back.
Well, it would have worked with a pickup truck.
Pickup truck, El Camino.
El Camino would have been great. Well, we shuffle over to the hay wagon, and he starts to sling his heavy bag right over the side, and as it lands, we hear oomph,
Oof.
oomph. It's
And
like,
then my favorite character appears.
is she your favorite character?
Yeah, she's up there.
Was
Well, I
that,
don't have crushes on anybody else in this movie, so yes, Teri Garr is my favorite character.
I don't know,
Yes.
Frau Beluga.
Well, I love her too, but not in a different way.
Honey, you want to bring me some Ovaltine?
Maybe Teri Garr's my favorite person in the movie, and then there are other favorite characters in the movie.
characters. Dr. Frankenstein, of course, now he's a doctor. It's obviously the voice of a human being. What's that? And
Well, he wasn't expecting there to be a woman in the back of the wagon.
Well, we get this wonderful shot technically from Gene Wilder's perspective, shooting up at Igor, where his eyes are doing that, dysplasia thing, or one's going one way, one's going the other way. And he's like, oh, well, that's Inga. We thought maybe you'd want a lab assistant, Like, wait, he's coming to sign his inheritance and get his check. That's all he wanted. And wait, your lab assistant?
Yes.
Also, if he's a lab assistant, what is it, Igor?
Oh, he's the henchman.
yeah, he's something.
He does the dirty work.
He's comic relief.
Yes, okay.
He's got to be that. Well, what was he in the original Frankenstein? I mean, he did a lot of
He's the lab assistant.
but he did a lot of the dirty, heavy lifting too, right?
Sure. He was the grave robber and all the, brain getter.
The brain
getter, which is, by the way, what you look for in the want ads if you're looking for a job. Oh, let's see, brain getter.
Brain getter.
Hey, look there's a need for a brain getter.
I've had worse jobs.
Well, you're a PI. Most of your clients have no brains.
Yeah, well,
Not your clients, but maybe the people that your clients want you to go after.
well, let's just say I'm kind of cynical.
You've seen the depths to which mankind can sink.
Yes, I have.
Well, so we get introduced to the idea that there's a lab assistant. So Gene Wilder has to crawl up on the wagon wheel, the wagon cart wheel, or not wagon cart, the wagon
Wheel.
the
I'm
wagon.
gonna
You had
trip
it right.
up the rest
You
of the
were.
time.
I'm totally
Wagon
hosed
wheel.
on this one. So the wagon wheel, and he looks over the edge. There's a great shot of him coming over the edge and then looking down, and there we are. The lab assistant Inga pushes
There we
his
are, Teri Garr.
Yeah. Oh, that's what. Can we all take a moment and just go? Teri Garr.
Teri Garr.
Yeah.
Teri Garr to me has always been the 80s for me. I'm 43. I'm the age of this movie. I was born in 74. So by the time I knew Teri Garr, it was the 80s. And she was everybody's friend or everybody's mom or she was quintessentially the 80s for me. In all movies, because she was in so many different things, from Close Encounters of the Third Kind to Oh God and the fun stuff like After Hours, all these kind of movies. I was Tootsie. I completely forgot about Tootsie.
Oh yeah, can't leave that one out.
Where she was, nominated for an Academy Award. I had to go and actually look up some of her other stuff because I didn't know her earlier movies, coming into this. And I'm sure you guys have this in your notes. Did you guys talk about her first movie that she was in? She has a non-speaking role in a Monkees movie, the movie Head, that was written by Jack Nicholson. It's like famously cult movie.
That is a real cult classic.
With the fake band, the Monkees, and
Right.
she's in that.
But doesn't have any speaking part, I think, right?
No, she is that's her first literal thing. This was her
on-screen.
big break.
Was she credited in that movie? I don't know if she was originally credited.
She may not have been, because that was a time when, you know, if you were a walk-on, she was a non-speaking role. The IMDb has made it, you know.
Oh yeah.
She's now credited for that movie. Someone went back in and put it in, but I haven't seen that movie in so long. I wouldn't even know what, you know, if she's in the credits at the end, maybe.
You may be the only person who's seen that movie in the last 15 years too.
Oh, it wasn't 15 years. It's been a long time. I had a Monkees phase probably in my early, high school years, early or late middle school. So.
Well, I think I knew I grew up watching the Monkees all the time on television. Thought it was a cool show to watch, and so I mean, it's not a cultural reference lost on us. I don't know, anybody that might be in the millennial or premillennial generation will have absolutely no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah,
awesome.
But I think
which is always good to drop those.
Well, and I think you're right with Teri Garr, because there are so many movies now that I'll even watch from the 80s and I'm like, oh, there's Teri Garr. There's Teri Garr. She's one of those people that was in a ton of stuff and always a great actress. You know, she wasn't just eye candy. She was really, really talented.
She definitely grew as an actress as she went along, and certainly stumbling across a prolific at that time and a very talented, which he still is, although I think some of his movies maybe not as good, but a young Steven Spielberg. There's worse people you can stumble across when you want to kind of take your comedic background and maybe some of your lighter, fluffier roles and move it to a much more serious role. I'll never forget the devolution of the family as Richard Dreyfuss's character becomes more and more obsessed with the UFOs and his experience with the lights and everything, and watching her deal with the fact my husband's cracking up and I have to save my kids. I mean, it was heavy for me to watch as a kid.
Yeah, that was intense.
And I like that another movie, this will be my recommendation of a movie since I recommended one in the first minute on Monday. She joins Richard Dreyfuss again in Let It Ride in 1989, where he's a degenerate gambler and it's like his one last day to like make it big. And she's his like put upon ex-wife or wife or maybe wife filing for divorce. And the breadth and scope of their relationship, in my mind, they're the people that are left over from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Their relationship has moved on, and he's literally lost his mind after he came back from being with the aliens. and Let It Ride is how they are now. They're they don't see eye to eye anymore. Obviously, at the end of the movie in Let It Ride, they get back together. But I loved. She's always been such a wonderful actress, and I'm sad that she doesn't do that much anymore. She's kind of retired from acting, but you know, her 80s movies, her 70s movies made her big, but her 80s movies are endearing to me. Probably you guys too, probably our generation sees her as an 80s person, even though she was such a strength in the 70s, the late 70s.
Well, the thing is, she did develop, I think it's multiple sclerosis. She is wheelchair bound now, and so she hasn't been able to do a lot for a while. She did make an appearance 4 years ago. They were having a presentation, a 40th anniversary showing of Young Frankenstein, and they did bring Mel Brooks, Cloris Leachman, and they had Teri Garr in her wheelchair on the stage ahead of the showing and took some Q&A. Leonard Maltin was on there hosting the event and had a chance to speak with him. I actually shared a few of our clips on the Facebook page that we have for The Wilder Ride about that, and it was kind of sad to see because I'm at that point in my life where I still remember these actors and actresses in their heyday, and then when I find out 20 years later they're on their, the tail end of either something debilitating or on the tail end of their lifespan, that sense of mortality is not funny to me. I don't like that.
No, and she is she's one of those rare people that can do dramatic movies or TV shows and be a comedic actress. And this movie had Young Frankenstein had such an impact on me as a kid, and I went through my teen years. Every time I see her, I always go back to Young Frankenstein. But Close Encounters was so huge, and so many others, and
Tootsie for me, that was Tootsie. Like I thought I was blown away. I still as a kid, because I saw that in the theater when I don't know if it came out. I was 13, 14 years old, and was just blown away by Dustin Hoffman. I thought it was comic, but it had such a deep story, and then everything about that movie I just enjoyed as a kid growing up in the 80s.
Yeah, and it is hard to see those actors and actresses now as you kind of feel like you're losing a piece of yourself.
Guess what that means? We're getting old.
I'm still not ready to use that word.
I don't want to use that word. Well,
my feet hurt all the time. I'm old.
Now, here's something, Jonathan. I don't know if you were aware of this, and we pointed this out back, I think, in minute 1, because we, with an older style movie, we spent the first 3.5 minutes of doing nothing but talking about credits. Phyllis Garr was one of the wardrobe individuals on the film who helped dress the ladies of the cast, and Phyllis Garr is Teri Garr's mother. So every time we see Teri Garr in a low-cut, very... just delicious.
Provocative. Okay, delicious.
Mom was responsible for dressing your daughter that way.
Mom.
Yeah. But as we pointed out before, it's kind of the opposite of how our kids are. We're like, yeah, you're not leaving the house in that. And Mrs. Garr must have been like, that's not provocative enough.
Could you see her? Yeah, here comes, she's got like a turtleneck sweater on. And Phyllis is like, no, you are not going on the set dressed like that, young lady. You need to show me some cleavage.
Let's see the goods.
Let's see the goods. Well, we have a great moment here. And this, to me, I love this next moment here with Teri Garr because it introduces her character. And to me, in the space of a few seconds, shows us how wonderfully playful she is. She's innocent to a degree. She's fun. She's not here to be the sex pot. She's not here to try to take over. She's not here to woo the man. She's the opposite of Elizabeth on the platform. When she says, "You want to roll in the hay?" And he's just like, what? And she's like, roll in the hay. And she looks like she's having such a good time. You can't help but be charmed by her.
Yeah.
I mean, they only got this wagon to do that joke.
Oh, no doubt.
That's the only reason they're not in a 1974 Plymouth Sundance or whatever. That's why they're not driving around in this thing. It's because
and there is some of the aesthetic, but you're right. I mean, this was a one joke prop.
It's like the joke from, I'm going to go back to Top Secret again as another joke. They have a horse-drawn carriage and the little tiny horse pulling them. And he's like, the horse coughs. He's like, oh, is he okay? He's like, yes, he's just a little horse. These kind of jokes are only for the one play. Yeah. And it's totally worth it because they don't really use the wagon again for nothing in the scene.
Yeah, no, that wordplay from Top Secret. I love the one where it's like, do you know a little German? Oh, yes, I know a little German. He's over there.
He's sitting right over there. And he waves.
And you got the little short person in lederhosen like, hey!
Well, all those jokes can definitely be taken back to these Mel Brooks movies.
Absolutely.
Mel Brooks is the one he'd say, what's the dirtiest thing we can get away with saying? And then how do we make it not dirty? Like we'll see in another minute here coming up, huge knockers, that or nice knockers.
What knockers?
What knockers? And these kind of jokes, these are these guys sitting in a room laughing to themselves. Like, let's do something about rolling in the hay. There's hay around. He's like, let's just put them in a wagon. Okay. And how are we going to get her to say it? Just have her just move back and forth like roll, playing around. But also,
it's almost like, what
Teri
are you
Garr
thinking?
sells that line.
Oh, she does. She owns this. Does. And again, but I think it's perfect because even if, and you can tell the men in the audience because you see how Gene Wilder takes that line. You see how Igor takes that line. But the minute she starts singing and is playful, you can't help but, again, realize all the guys in the audience are the pigs.
Right.
But that's not how she intended it, which allows Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder to get away with the joke because how can you censor a joke like this when it's obvious she doesn't mean it the way everybody else initially takes it?
Right. And it is. It's that gotcha. We gotcha again.
Well, continuing on as we start to make our way toward the end of this minute, just as she does her roll in the hay, Igor snaps the reins on the horses and the hay cart. God bless America.
Wagon.
What's wrong with you, Alan? We've told you this before. It's a wagon.
I have a lot of these moments lately.
You're too old to change your ways, I guess.
Well, all my notes was calling it a hay
Everyone's
cart.
going to stop listening to this podcast.
That's right. That idiot can't get it straight. It's a wagon.
So we have the pratfall moment here, kind of, where he snaps the reins on the hay wagon, and the hay wagon lurches forward, and he goes diving into the hay on what we can only assume is going to be on top of Inga. We don't really get a chance to see that just yet as we get a wipe watching the cart now in the midst of the woods. The scary woods of Transylvania as we will move into the next minute. So we at least get introduced to yet another character, Inga, that we now know is the lab assistant. We know Igor, who is there to help because his grandfather helped Victor Frankenstein. So even though the rates have gone up, he's there to help Frankenstein. Jonathan, anything that we missed from this minute? Anything you have in your notes that you wanted to add?
Nope, I just like tripping you up on the fact that it's a wagon over a cart, so I'm just happy that's going to be going on for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to decide whether we're going to invite you back tomorrow. It's never good to make the host look bad. Wait a minute, I do that on my own.
I was going to say, you need help
I
with
don't
that?
need any
Why?
help with that. Walt, what about you? Anything in your notes that we're missing?
The only thing I was going to mention, too, is just that, as a side note, Teri Garr based this character on Cher's hairstylist because she was on the Sonny and Cher show as just kind of a background type person, and she just found Cher's hairstylist to be so compelling that she based.
Now, was it her hairstylist behind the scenes, or I thought it was a bit like a character on the Sonny and Cher show?
Yeah, that's what I saw that. When I saw that, I had the note, and then I was like, I can't tell exactly what they're talking about. Did Cher do a hairdresser bit, or is she talking about the hairdresser on the Cher show?
From what I read, I was assuming that it was her actual hairdresser, that her,
that makes more sense.
Hair person on the set, but maybe it was a character. I'll have to go
whether it was a
watch
bit or not, the fact of
Cher's.
the matter is I forgot about that because that's, again, an early start for Teri was on the Sonny and Cher show.
Yeah, which is interesting. Well, I'll have to go back and relook at that. But
wow, this is like millennial catnip you guys are putting out right now. Talking about the Cher show.
yeah, I know this is
Sonny and Cher. Who?
yeah.
Well, he's no longer
It's
with
a
us.
senator who died in a ski accident a long time
Exactly.
ago, and this other lady
This other lady.
who you may have seen on Will and Grace.
Do you believe? Oh, no.
No. Stop.
I'm going to edit that.
Stop. No.
I'm sorry.
No. You cannot reference Cher and Aerosmith in the same.
No, there's something
podcast.
cosmically wrong about that. So,
Yes, that's-
Jonathan, we've had you with us for this minute here, this 18th minute of Young Frankenstein. If somebody said, hey, that guy's got a lot of insight and he knows how to correct a host with some well-meaning knowledge, where can they go to get some additional knowledge about maybe a small Tom Cruise franchise?
If you'd like to feel better about yourself and correct me, you can talk to us on Twitter at MinImpossible, M-I-N Impossible. And if you'd like to talk about the movie Mission Impossible or even Wilder Ride or Gene Wilder, we'll talk about anything over on our Facebook group at the Impossible Minute Force. We're always over there talking about technology. This movie doesn't have that much technology, but I am enjoying so far everything that has Gene Wilder has brought to this movie. So yeah, if you want to, you can just edit this part out. I'm just rambling now. So.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks. I'm going to remind myself not to give him that platform again. No. Walt, if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about our podcast, where can they go?
You can ride your wagon on over to Facebook and find us at the Wild.
Do you know where we are?
I'm either not drunk enough or I'm too drunk.
Let's try that again. And Walt, if somebody wants to know a little bit more about the Wilder Ride, where can they go?
You can ride your card on over to Facebook and find us at facebook.com/The Wilder Ride. Or if you really want to help us out a little bit, you can go over to Patreon and find us at patreon.com/The Wilder Ride. Look at some options to help us out with some of the costs that we have involved in this. Or find us on iTunes. Make a little comment so your vote's counted. And we really, really appreciate all the comments that people have made this last week and the interaction we're getting over at Facebook. We're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, join us on our Facebook page. We've got a public one, The Wilder Ride, easy to find if you just want to kind of be reminded of episodes. But we also have a listener group page, a private group, so that way we can really have some fun and get into discussion about not just Gene Wilder, but movies and fun and memories and growing up, having these sleepovers where we'd go talk about all these movies all night long, roll dice, play Dungeons and Dragons, eat pizza, and do all the things they did at the very beginning of E.T., because that's how we grew up. I do want to say thank you to the guys from moviesbyminutes.com, a website that really catalogs all these kind of podcasts, including Minute Impossible, including ours, and a host of other ones. When, the big daddy of them all, Star Wars Minutes, go over there, Star Wars Minute. Check that out. Moviesbyminutes.com if you want to learn a little bit more about some other podcasts with maybe some of your other favorite franchises. Until tomorrow, where we find out where are we going in this wagon cart. Wagon!
Cart. Wagon?
It's not a wagon cart. Until we find out where we're going in this hay wagon, you come back tomorrow for more of the Wilder Ride.
Wagon.
Cart.
What?
Wagon.
Drunken wagon.
Wagon. Hey, wagon.
Friedrich Wagon.
Roll it,